Thanks so much for being with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial. It's great to have you here. It's great to be with you, Summer, all the time.
It's great to be here all the time.
Let's talk math today. Well, I mean, we talk math all the time on this show, but I want to deal with the mathematics of loss. Kind of set me up. We always talk about our fiscal house. Let's go foundationally. What's the mathematics of loss? Where are we going to start with this one?
Yeah, so the mathematics of loss simply tells us that once we have a negative number in there, the average and the actual won't be the same. So let me give you an example.
Please do.
So if we have, let's use easy math.
Okay.
Let's
I like easy math. Now, I'm married to a math teacher, so I have to do easy math because I still can't keep up with it. Can't figure it out. All right, easy math here.
Okay, well, let's see if your wife can hold me to this. Okay, so if we have $1 million portfolio, right?
Yep.
And a big correction comes through, a big crash even. Let's say another 08 comes around again. We lose 50%. So our million is now down to
500,000.
500,000, right? But don't worry, because it'll come back. It's just a paper loss, right? That's what they all say. So let's give it to them. It does come back. Let's say the next year or two, it flies back up 50%. A lot of people think you're back to even.
Not back to even.
We're not back to even, right? Because we just earned 50% on half of our money, right? So we're really at 750.
Yeah.
So the average return of negative 50 and positive 50 is zero.
Yeah.
Right? So one would assume with a 0%, we're back to even, back to where we started, right? Back to our million. But the math of that shows us that we're still actually 25% in the hole. So the reality of it is, although the average return is zero, the actual return is still negative 25%.
So average versus actual takes us into something that, because a lot of people will walk into your office and say, hey, can you give me an idea of what your average gain on most of your clients is? How do you respond to a question like that?
People ask me that all the time.
Yeah, I'll bet they do.
Well, and it's not really something that has an easy answer, because everyone is different.
Everyone is different.
Everyone is different. Every portfolio is different. And the actual return is more important than the average return, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm talking to my client, or I'm talking to anyone really, I want to talk real dollars.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk percentages.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's the dollars that matter, right?
If we're talking about going in, you gave a perfect example on average versus actual of what we're dealing with in early loss. Sometimes you can do the right thing all the time, and yet something happens in the market, and something happens at the wrong time, and it ends up being the wrong thing because you've left it all in the market, and something happened that you couldn't foresee, and now you can't make up for your losses in the early years because you don't have enough years to get back to where you need to be.
Yeah.
Why does this become so much of a plan that you try to focus on because of the risk that you're dealing with in those years?
Well, we have what we refer to in the financial world as these black swan events, right? So the most recent black swan event was COVID. It's an event that happens, seemingly unpredictable, and it has a catastrophic effect, right, on our markets, on our economy. So COVID was the most recent one. But here's what I tell people all the time. We know they're going to happen, right?
Because history tells us.
Oh, yes. I mean, we can go back in history as far as we can go, and these black swan events have happened time and time again You know, the crash of '08, what about the tech bubble burst and the early 2000s? What about, I mean, there's so many events. What about the JFK assassination? You could go back in time to Julius Caesar, right? You think he was surprised? And that event changed the course and history of many, many nations, right? So my point here is that these black swan events have always happened since the beginning of time, and they will always continue to happen, right? What do we say sometimes? That the only thing certain is change itself.
Yes.
We know it's going to happen. So we know that most people are retired for anywhere from 25 to 35 years on average. So do you think in a 25 to 35 year time period, there won't be at least one, possibly even 2 or 3 black swan type events?
So if history tells us that we're in for something bad, what's the most important thing about that? I mean, we're talking here in an election year, and in the number that you just gave me, do you realize that you have 25 to 30 years in retirement? That's 15 congressional elections in that time of election where things can change, because that's what happens in government change.
Oh, yes, it will happen.
How do we plan for black swan? How do we plan for the constant of change? What are you asking people to come in for to prepare for that next 25 or 30 years?
Yeah. So it basically comes down to 2 choices.
Okay.
Right? You can stick your head in the sand and just hope and pray that you come out all right.
Hope and pray is not a plan.
Or you can actually sit down with a planner, a financial planner who does this kind of stuff day in and day out. These types of plans are things that we put together every single day. Now, we don't know when the next black swan event will happen. We don't know when the next market crash will happen. We can speculate, but what we want is we want a solid plan built strong enough that whatever does come at us during those 25 to 35 years, we're in a much better position to combat it. There's no perfect plan, but if you have a plan,
Yes.
we're in a better position.
And we can adjust to change. This is,
Right.
we talk about this, that this is available to people. Retire with Impact is the book that Summer has penned. Give me an idea, when people come in and you offer them a copy of this book, what do they find in this book? Give me an idea what's in here.
Oh goodness, this book, this book is years and years of stories that I've gathered from clients and family and friends. It takes you through so many different situations, because I wanted to make sure that whatever book I write, it's real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, of course, I've had to change the names for confidentiality and switch up some things, but this is real life. This is what I've experienced and some of the lessons that personally I've learned, as well as some of my clients and family and friends. So it covers a lot of subjects in here. I wanted to touch on everything in here. So I think I've got it pretty well covered.
I think you do have it pretty well covered. The question is, do you have it pretty well covered? Do you have a plan? Have you met with somebody who has decades of experience of going through the ups, the downs, the black swan years, and waiting for the next one to come with preparation? Wouldn't you like a Texas Wealth Report? We have one complimentary for you to come in, along with a copy of Summer's book, Retire with Impact. Don't you want to retire with impact? We'd like to help you do it. Don't wait any longer. Call now, 866-254-8026. The plan is free. The book is free. And the peace of mind is all yours. We'll be right back.
How did I become a financial advisor? Basically, when I was a teenager, my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother, what we found out afterward was she was left with a mess. There were accounts, policies that we didn't know why they existed. It literally took my family years to get everything in order for her. She didn't know where her income was coming from. She didn't know if she had enough money, and her health took a toll. So I watched that, and I just realized at a pretty young age that I don't want people to have to go through what my grandmother went through. Seeing her go through that was very traumatic at a young age. And so I've always had that in the back of my mind. So as I got older, I had a career that was very good and successful. But when the opportunity came to learn this business from my dad, I hopped on it because I knew that doing this business and learning this business that I could make a much more direct impact with families just like mine and help them and hopefully prevent a situation like my grandmother was in.
Thanks so much for being with us on the Texas Wealth Report. I'm Brad Johansson with Summer Roberts of Impact Partners Financial. We're talking about mathematics of loss, which kind of becomes scary for a lot of people. As we talk about history, the black swan events that we're talking about, there are a lot of people who have been riding the market for a little while because 2022 wasn't so great. 2023 turned out to be okay and continues that ride. We're in this legislative year. I want to talk a little bit about market volatility because you talked about some of the crashes that we saw in 2008, for example. What's the danger of riding this wave of market volatility without maybe a plan going forward? As you kind of said, hope and pray that everything's going to continue to go the way it's been?
Well, I think the important thing for people to understand is it doesn't necessarily take a black swan event or a catastrophic market crash. Yeah. The daily or monthly volatility can slowly eat away your retirement just as easily as a big crash can. Yeah. Right? So when we're thinking math, think about that happening consistently. You know, my dad always had a saying. He always said, "You win by not losing big." Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's much easier to climb out of a 15-foot hole than a 50-foot hole, right? So what we want to be cautious of when we're doing any type of retirement, when we're thinking about retirement, whether you're retired, whether you're 10 years from retirement, or whether you're 1 year from retirement, it's all the same, right? Because at the end of the day, what did you save that money for? Why did you spend all those years saving that money? So that you could retire, right? And supplement your income. Yeah. Because when one stream turns off, you quit working and that faucet turns off, you lose that paycheck. We have to have some other paycheck that we can turn that faucet on.
This is part of that income planning that you talk about all the time. And a lot of people have been with advisors who have been with them through accumulation phase. Right. How many times do you talk to your advisor? Well, I can't remember the last time I talked to my advisor because we've been working in a situation of trying to accumulate money. I haven't really needed to him. I trust that guy. How's he doing? Not really sure. Haven't paid attention. Mm-hmm. How often are you meeting with clients, especially as we adjust from this accumulation phase into distribution phase?
Well, we have to meet regularly. I always tell clients when we're getting close to retirement, we have what I call our ducks in a row meeting. Yeah. We want to make sure all of our ducks are in a row, making sure that you're prepared. So when you push that red button and you're out of there, we're ready. And the minute that income stops, we can turn the other one on. So we want to be really prepared right before, and then of course, right after. I remember, funny story, many years ago, I met with this client. He had worked for a very long time, probably 40 years, and we were having our ducks in a row meeting, getting him prepared.
Okay.
He was ready to retire and stop working. So we finish up our meeting. I'm closing up my file folder. We're done. We're ready. About to walk out the door, and I said, "Okay, are you ready? You do have any questions?" And he said, "Yes, Summer. I have one really important question." And I remember thinking in my head, "Oh my gosh, what did I miss?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no." And he said, "I've been waking up at 4 a.m. for as long as I can remember." And he said, "So what am I going to do at 4 a.m. when I'm retired?" I said, "Oh gosh, you stumped me there. I don't know. You like fishing. Go fish at 4 a.m." So anyway, fast forward in time, he retired, and we got back together a few months later, let him kind of get used to his new lifestyle, and then I had him come in a few months later just to make sure everything is in good order. And he came in, we had our meeting, we went through everything, and I asked him, I said, "John, I got to know what you're doing at 4 a.m. I just have to know." And he said, "Are you kidding? I had to make this meeting for the afternoon because I sleep till like 9 or 10.
Attaboy. Attaboy.
But that's great. That's what you should do in retirement.
Well, I mean, that's
you
the
know?
change. We've gone through a period where we're doing the same thing all of the time because we have to. Let's plan for what we want to do.
It's
And that's going to change if you're dealing with an income planning situation where you go,
Yes.
"You know what, I don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning and worry about where that's going to be," kind of thing.
right. And we know whether when we do an income plan, whether we go through it with our client or not, I always plan on in the first 2 to 3 years, people tend to typically spend a little bit more than what they anticipate. So I always I know that, so I'll plug it into the plan, and without fail, it happens every time. Because I mean, think about it. Now every day's a Saturday.
Yeah.
You wake up, you do what you want to do, and it costs money, right? Yeah.
Everything costs money. This becomes part of that tax planning that you're dealing with as well, doesn't it? I mean, especially if you go through a ducks in a row meeting with somebody as they're getting ready. Is it inevitable that you find people who go, "I didn't really know I had that duck," or "I wasn't sure where that was going to be and whether this needs to be in front of that one"? How complicated is putting ducks in a row as you get prepped for something like this?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think it would depend on how much planning we've done prior. You know?
Which is everybody's different kind of thing that you talked about all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on whether if someone comes to see us 6 months before they're about to retire, then, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of ducks to line up, and we've got to take taxes into consideration. We've got to take inflation into consideration. I mean, I tell everyone, consider inflation a tax, right? Because it is, and it's never going to go away. It will always be there.
Isn't that kind of something that falls through the cracks with a lot of other advisors, that inflation is never really figured into the plan?
Man. Well, I'll tell you, it consistently blows my mind at how many plans have not considered inflation. And that's not a plan, because inflation should be considered a tax. It is always there. It will always be there. It will never go away. We know this. Remember, we talked earlier, I said you can either stick your head in the sand or you can do something about it. So there are a lot of things that we know are going to happen, right? We know some market corrections or even a crash could happen in retirement years. We know that inflation is going to be there, so let's have a plan. This gentleman, Tom, that I met with a few years ago, I remember I asked him, I said, "Well, he had another advisor that he made clear to me in the first meeting that he's had the same advisor for 17 years and he's done a great job and he loves him and he will never leave him. And I said, okay, that's fair. I told you I'd give you a second opinion, and I'm going to do that because I said I would. So as we get into it and we're finding all of these red flags in the plan. Now, what Tom's advisor was good at was what you referred to earlier as the accumulation phase. Yeah. You know, picking investments and growing his portfolio and helping him grow it. He had done a good job. I could understand why Tom was pleased with that. But it takes a different advisor to talk about the distribution phase. Yeah. When we're planning for or getting closer to retirement, it's a completely different type of advisor that you need. So the person who is really good in the accumulation phase may not be the right one in the distribution phase. And it's not necessarily that his guy did anything wrong. He's just that we're specialists, right? Even in the financial world, there's specialists. You're not going to go see, a foot doctor if you need brain surgery, right?
Let's not. Here's my question to you. Do you need a second opinion? As Summer said, I promised you a second opinion, and I'll give it to you. And maybe that will change your life. Maybe it'll be your dream retirement. How about it? A Texas Wealth Report, complimentary, second opinion. Call now, 866-254-8026. The Texas Wealth Report continues after this.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carolyn 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you.
As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion
Ben? Ben? Do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
So glad you're with us today on the Texas Wealth Report. We only have a few minutes left. And we talked about the client that came in, Summer, who needed a second opinion. Accumulation guy had been great, but the second opinion says your distribution phase is going to be different. And a lot of the distribution is, just to let you know, the guy who did great for you in accumulation has put a tax time bomb in your portfolio. Tell me what you can do with that, because we talk about Roth conversions all the time, and we only have a few minutes to do that. But right now, in the third best tax bracket that we've seen in history, maybe a time for Roth conversions for a lot of people, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we may not see taxes this low in our lifetimes.
Ever again.
We may not. So the one thing that people mistake with taxes is they think, well, I have to pay my taxes. There's nothing I can do about it, right? Well, yes, you have to pay your taxes, right?
But there is something you can do about it.
But exactly, there's something you can do about it. I'm a firm believer there's a solution for everything. So we could look into potential Roth conversions to see if that's even an option, right? So the first step is we have to run a tax conversion analysis.
Okay.
So by running that report, that's going to tell us, is this even beneficial, right? So we may run the report. Let's say you have a $500,000 IRA. You may end up seeing the report, and if you keep the IRA, you pay $314,000. Let's just say.
Okay.
Or if we convert it, you pay $127,000 in taxes. So if we have a choice between $314 and $127, I can tell you what I'm going to choose.
Amen.
Now, full disclosure, we run these reports all the time, and sometimes we get them and there's not that dramatic of a difference.
Okay.
Just earlier this week, an advisor at my office ran one of the reports, and there was, I think, a $30,000 difference in the two numbers, whether they did the Roth conversion or not. And that's spread out over their lifetime, right? So I think the couple ended up wanting to do it anyway, but at that point, $30,000 difference wasn't. The point is, let's run the report. Let's see what it's going to look like. Let's see if it's even beneficial to have that conversation, right?
We started this out with mathematical loss, and math always wins if we can run it, right?
Yes. Let's let the numbers give us the information that we need, and then once we have those numbers in front of us, then we can start to create an actual tax strategy and create a tax plan.
Everybody's different.
Everyone is different, and it's incredibly critical that everyone gets a custom tailored plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what our wealth report does.
Don't
So.
you want one of those that's built just for you, not just for your neighbor or somebody you talked over at the water cooler? This one's just for you. We talk about it all the time, that math wins. Come in, let's do the math to make your retirement better than you ever thought that it could be. A complimentary plan along with a complimentary book. Retire with impact. Isn't that what we all want? We'd love to see you in the office. We'd love to help make your retirement the best that it can possibly be. Texas Wealth Report is just for you. Stop waiting. Call now. 866-254-8026. We're so glad you're with us. Until next time, looking forward to seeing you in the office. Make it a great day.